Good morning, all of you. This is time that we discuss a few German writers. So we already seen Bertolt Brecht, and now it is time for us to see Gunter Grass. Gunter Grass was a German writer who received the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1999. So he was born and brought up in a province called Danzig. Danzig is actually a province in Poland. And most of his novels are set in Danzig. And he is popular for his Danzig trilogy. And there are 3 novels included in the Danzig trilogy. And they are the Tin Drum, Cat and Mouse, and the last novel is Dog Ears. Once UGC asked the question, identify the one novel that is not included in the Danzig trilogy written by Gunter Grass. And the novels included in the trilogy are The Tin Drum, Cat and Mouse, and Dog Ears. And from the Tin Drum also, one question was asked by UGC very recently. Gunter Grass is one of the important of German writers, and UGC is always interested in asking questions from Gunter Grass. And UGC in the habit of asking questions from Bertolt Brecht also. Even if Brecht is asked, Grass also will be asked. Grass, quite often an unavoidable name for the UGC questions. And he is considered as a writer who followed the rebelliastic format. Rabelais was actually a French writer of humors. So with biting humor and wit, rebellious. And he is called the modern rebellious. And he is referred to as a modern rebellious, and his novels are considered as rebellion. Rebellious was actually a French writer who lived between 1483 and 1553. And he is known for his humorous writing, his biting wit and humor. And Gunter Grass is also known for his biting humor and wit. And he is very popular for his Danzig trilogy. It's Danzig. Danzig is actually a province in Poland. And it is in this place Gunter Grass was also born. And the 3 novels that we discuss in detail, starting with the Tin Drum, and it was produced in 1959. And it is a key text of magical realism, and we come to find magical realism effectively employed in this novel. And the protagonist, very interestingly, so a man but in the shape of a boy. He is grown only up to the age of 3 years. And he is named Oscar Metzeratz. Oscar Metzeratz. And he is found narrating his story from a mental hospital. And it was the question asked by UGC. In the novel Tin Drum, Oscar Metzeratz is found describing his story from where? And we find him describing his story from a mad hospital, a mental asylum. And he claims to have stopped growing. And actually he is a small person. He has grown only up to the age of 3. And he says that he had stopped growing at the age of 3. Though physically he is dwarf, he is physically very short and small, he is intellectually normal. Even though he is physically dwarfish, he is intellectually normal like any other person. And Oscar falls in love with a lady named Dorothea, and she is referred to as Sister Dorothea. and she was a neighbor. But he fails to seduce her. And after all, while walking through the fields, he found a severed finger and identifies that it is the finger of Dorothea, because he finds a ring there. And he intimates the issue to the people, and they believed that he had killed Dorothea. And he was wrongly suspected of killing Dorothea, and he was sent to the mental hospital. And while sitting in the mental hospital, he remembers his life. And when he was a boy, he was given tin drum by his father as birthday present. And he was an expert in using the drum. So whenever he is free, he beats the drum, and it is his hobby. His using the tin drum is his hobby. And even though he is dwarfish, his voice is very shrill. That can even break glasses, shatter glasses. And he has a passion for banging on his tin drum. And the novel actually has religious overtones. So it speaks about the religiosity of the Christians and the Jewish people. And this is the first novel included in the Danzig trilogy, entitled The Tin Drum. And the protagonist is Oscar Metzerat. Oscar Metzerat, who had grown only up to the age of 3, dwarfish, but intellectually normal, and loving a girl named Dorothea, who is called Sister Dorothea, and after all suspected of killing her, and was put in the mental hospital. And while sitting in the mental hospital, he remembers his earlier life. And it is followed by his next novel, and it is called Cat and Mouse, produced in the year 1961. And the title itself produces the central metaphor, cat and mouse. And the hero there is Mahlik. Mahlik is the hero there, and he is the mouse, and the society is referred to as the cat. The hero is named Mahlik, and he is the mouse, and the society is actually considered as the cat. Society used to torment him, and therefore Mahlik is the mouse and the society is the cat. And the narrator in this novel is a friend to Mahlik, and he is named Pilens. Pilens is the narrator of the story, and he is a close friend of Mahlik. And Pilens describes the character of Mahlik from his school days until his disappearance in the Second World War. Mahlik was found missing during the Second World War, and the friend named Pilens is found describing the character of Mahlik. And during school days, the boys located a sunken warship, a sunken Polish warship, and they used to steal many items from the warship. And Mahlik was the leader, and he stole many items from the sunken warship. And for that he was expelled from the school. The headmaster expelled him from the school for stealing things from the sunken Polish ship. And nothing was said about him when he was expelled from the school. Nothing was said about him. And it was believed that he joined the Second World War. And like the Tin Drum, this novel also is located in Danzig. And the reason why it is also included in the Danzig trilogy. And very interestingly, in the novel we come to find Oscar Metzerat also. Oscar Metzerat also makes an appearance in the novel. since Oscar Metzerath also makes an appearance in the novel, and the novel is set in the area called Danzig, it is considered as one among the Danzig trilogy. And this novel was produced in the year 1961. And the last novel in the Danzig trilogy is entitled Dog Years. And it was produced in the year 1963. And there are three chronological parts in the novel. And we come to find that there is Walter Mattain and Edward Amsel, two friends. Walter and Edward Amsel. Walter Mattain and Edward Amsel. And Amsel is part Jewish and an expert in making scarecrows. Actually, he is an expert in the art of making scarecrows. Normally in the fields we come to find the scarecrows fixed to frighten the birds away from the fields. And they are called scarecrows. And Amsel is a part Jewish boy, a close friend of Walter Mattain, and is an expert in making scarecrows. And during the war, the friends end up on a collision. So they end up on a collision on a fight between each. And so the friends both fought corporally, physically, and Walter denounces Amsel because Amsel is a Jew. And in the third part of the novel, Walter makes friendship with a dog. We come to find Walter making friendship with a dog. And the dog is named Prince. And makes a tour to the post-war West Germany. And Walter is found making a tour to the post-war Germany, attacking former Nazis. So on the way they found the former Nazis living in some areas, and he tried to attack the Nazis, and the dog was also with him. And the dog deserts the master because even as a dog, he has seen enough of his master. He doesn't actually want to continue with his master. And so the dog year, it is called the dog years. And actually the relation between Walter and his dog. And we come to find that there are two friends, Walter and Amsel. Amsel is part Jewish. And after all, during the war, Amsel and Walter quarreled each other. And Walter defeated Amsel, hitting him in his face and knocking down his teeth. And Walter denounced Amsel, saying that Amsel is a Jew. And there is nothing heard about Amsel after that. And towards the end of the novel, we come to find Walter making tour through the areas of West Germany and attacking the former Nazis. And he has also a dog with him named Prince. But the dog has left the master because as a dog he has seen enough of his master. He had suffered enough cruelty from his master, and he didn't actually want to continue living with his master. And this is what we come to find from the novel Dog Years. And these three novels, The Tin Drum, Cat and Mouse, and Dog Years, are set in the province called Danzig, and therefore they are called Danzig trilogy. And Gunter Grass is a known German writer who received the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1999. And after Gunter Grass, we come to find Herman Hesse. Hesse has got a special place in the minds of the Indians, especially in the minds of the Kerala people, because it was his grandfather who produced the first Malayalam dictionary, grammar dictionary of Malayalam language. His grandfather, who came to India as a Christian missionary, Herman Gunter. And Herman Hesse was actually the grandson of Herman Gunter. And Hesse was a known novelist, poet and story writer. And he was also at the same time a painter. And he is very popular for his novel Siddhartha. And Siddhartha has been a novel prescribed in most of the universities. And UGC has asked questions several times from Herman Hesse, especially concentrating on his novel Siddhartha. And Herman Hesse is known for his novels like Demian, Steppenwolf, Siddhartha, and The Glass Bed Game. And all the above novels describe the quest of the individual. So all the above novels describe the quest of the individual for authenticity, self-knowledge and spirituality. And Hesse had a special place in the minds of the Indians because his grandfather Herman Gunter served as a Christian missionary in India. And he came to Kerala and produced the current grammar of Malayalam language. And Herman Hesse also received the Nobel Prize in 1946. And when we examine the works of Herman Hesse, we come to find that his debut novel was Peter Camenzind. It was produced by him in 1904. And the novel begins with a popular phrase, "In the beginning was the myth, and it was God." The novel begins with a very popular phrase, "In the beginning was the myth, God." And the protagonist of the novel is Peter. And the novel is entitled Peter Camenzind. And the protagonist is Peter. Like Siddhartha, he undergoes many spiritual and intellectual journeys. And this protagonist also is found undergoing lot of spiritual and intellectual journeys. And most of his novels, I told you, is a quest of individual for authenticity, self-knowledge and spirituality. In Peter Camenzind also we come to find the protagonist Peter is undergoing many spiritual and intellectual journeys. And as a youth he leaves his mountain village to join a university and spend most of his years in the university. And as he progressed in his studies, he fell in love with a girl also there named Erminia Agliti, and she was a painter. And he had also a friend, a pianist named Richard, a very close friend and a roommate. And Richard died soon, and he became very sorrowful. And in order to soak his sorrow, he started taking alcohol. He started drinking alcohol. And he also fell in love with another girl named Elizabeth. And towards the end of the novel, we find him making friendship with an invalid boy named Bopi. And he found a wonderful reflection of humanity in the invalid boy named Bopi. And the two, Peter and Bopi, forge an indelible friendship, unbreakable friendship. And Bopi also became dead. And after the death of Bopi, Peter returned to his home and nursed his aging father. The story of Peter Camenzind. And it is the debut novel written by Herman Hesse. And the novel actually speaks about the story of Peter Camenzind, was born in a mountain village, was sent to a university, and stayed there for many years, came into friendship with a boy named Richard, and Richard was a good pianist, and both shared a single room. And Richard used to console Peter in moments of distress. But very soon Richard became dead and Peter became very sorrowful. And in fact, to soak his sorrow, he started using alcohol. And his love also been lost. And as he was groping in the darkness, he came into friendship with an invalid boy named Boppy. And Boppy reassured him the meaning of life. And they formed a friendship that was unbreakable. But Boppy also became dead soon. And this time he didn't revert to drinking alcohol, but he returned to his home and nursed his aging father. The story of Peter Camenzind was the debate novel produced by Herman Hesse in 1904. And in 1906, he came out with his next novel, Beneath the Wheel. It was his next novel. And later it was revised and published as The Prodigy. And in the novel we come to find the protagonist is Hans Gaberman. And he is the protagonist. And he is a talented boy. And he is to be called a prodigy, highly educated or over-intellectual, overtly talented boy. And he is found studying in a missionary school in Melbourne. And he is focused on increasing knowledge always, so concentrating on his studies, neglecting personal development, staying in the campus of the university, and came into friendship with Herman Hesse. And Hesse was a more liberal student. Beneath the Wheel tells the story of Hans Gaberman, a talented boy in a missionary school. And he concentrated on his studies and increased his knowledge, even neglected his personal development. And during his years there, he came into friendship with a liberal boy named Herman Hesse. And Hesse was expelled from the seminary, and Hans is sent back to home for friendship with Hesse. Hans Gabernath was also sent back to his home. So and it was at the time he started showing some mental weakness also. So he became mentally abnormal. When his friend was expelled from the school, he was also sent back to his home. Hans Gaberman, almost like Peter Camenzind.